I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 8 years now. We've got a daughter, Emma, who's 11, and honestly, I thought we had a pretty good life. Sure, every relationship has its ups and downs, but from the outside, we looked solid. Lisa was the typical overbearing wife, bossy, a little bitchy, but she had her charm. She was always quick with a sarcastic comment or a sharp retort, and I guess that kept our dynamic interesting enough. But lately, things have felt off. I don't know exactly when it started, maybe a few months ago, but I noticed little things. She'd be unusually tense when I came home from work, or she'd cancel plans at the last minute saying she had something urgent to take care of. She also started keeping her phone on lock all the time, almost like she was hiding something. I asked her once if everything was okay, and she snapped at me, said I was being paranoid, that I was imagining things. She called me insecure, said I was overthinking. I tried to brush it off as me being paranoid, but the gut feeling didn't go away. Then came the big sign. Emma told me that she'd seen her mother arguing with someone on the phone, a man, late at night. When I asked Lisa about it, she laughed it off, said it was her cousin or some work thing. But her tone was sharp, defensive. She accused Emma of spying and told her to mind her own business. That only made me more suspicious. One night I decided to follow her. Nothing crazy, just once. I was feeling restless and I needed to see if there was any truth to what I suspected. So I waited until she went out to the grocery store, then I checked her phone. That's when I saw the messages. It wasn't just normal texting. It was flirty, suggestive stuff, way beyond what someone should be sharing with a roommate or a friend. I saw pictures, cheeky smiles, and even some explicit messages. My stomach sank. I scrolled through more, and that's when I saw the location. It was a hotel, and it was recent. The timestamps lined up with her weekend tournaments. My hands were trembling. I couldn't believe it. The woman I'd trusted. The mother of my child was sneaking off to meet some guy, her chess coach, I later found out, during tournaments. I mean, how stupid do you have to be? She'd been lying to me for months and I was just realizing it now. It felt like I'd been slapped in the face with a brick. My mind kept racing, trying to process it all. How long has this been going on? How many times had she lied? Was Emma ever in danger of catching her? I spent the night angry, hurt, and confused. Next morning, I confronted her. I knew I had to. The moment I saw her, her face turned tight, like she was already preparing some bullshit story. She looked at me with those cold, bitchy eyes and said I was overreacting, that it was just some stupid game she was playing for fun, and that I was being paranoid again. She even had the nerve to say I was jealous, that I didn't trust her, that it was all in my head. That's when I lost it. How could she lie straight to my face like that? How could she pretend I was crazy for suspecting her? I felt a punch of anger I'd never really experienced before. I wanted to shake her, scream at her, make her admit what she'd done. Instead, I just stared, cold and silent. I told her I knew everything. She smirked and said I was imagining things, that I was just insecure because I didn't understand her. But I saw the truth in her eyes, the guilt, the shame, the defiance. It tore me apart. I didn't know whether to cry, to punch a hole in the wall, or just walk out and pretend I didn't see anything. Honestly, I felt like I was in some terrible dream I couldn't wake up from. Since then, everything been a blur. I've been trying to make sense of it all, trying to figure out what to do next. Part of me wants to forgive her, to forget I saw those messages, to pretend it never happened. But deep down, I know that's not possible. The betrayal runs too deep and the damage is done. I can't look at her the same way anymore. Every time I see Emma, I think about what she might be exposed to, what kind of monster her mother is turning out to be. I just don't know how to move forward from here, but I do know I can't keep pretending everything's fine. After the initial shock wore off, I started to feel this hollow numbness settle in. I couldn't believe what I'd uncovered. My wife, Lisa, who I always thought of as a strong, confident woman, was out there screwing her chess coach during weekend tournaments. Hotel cameras confirmed it, for God's sake. And she was lying through her teeth, calling me paranoid and insecure when I confronted her. That's the thing, she's a master at twisting things, making herself out to be the victim. It's what she always does when she gets caught or feels threatened. She's bitchy, she's manipulative, and she's got a mouth on her that could cut glass. After that confrontation, I needed some time alone to process everything. I stayed up most of that night just staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it all. I kept asking myself if I should believe her bullshit about it being just a game or nothing serious. But I knew better. I saw the messages. I saw the hotel receipts. It was all right there, clear as day. And yet, part of me still hesitated to blow everything up right away. I was scared of what would happen if I pushed her, scared of losing my family, scared of what this all meant for Emma. Over the next couple of days, I started observing her more. She acted normal around Emma, but I could see the flicker of guilt sometimes in her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking. She'd get defensive if I asked her questions about her weekend tournaments, or if I tried to get her to open up about her work trips. That's when I knew she was hiding more or maybe still lying. I also caught her deleting messages on her phone, which only made me angrier. She was trying to cover her tracks, knowing she'd been caught. One night, I decided to do a little digging myself. I isn't a hacker, but I found a way to check her phone backups, her deleted messages, even some hidden apps. That's when I discovered she'd been talking to him even after the hotel thing. Not just physical meetings. She was still messaging him, exchanging flirty texts, talking about how excited she was to see him again. And that really broke something in me. I'd always believed in honesty, in loyalty, in the idea that marriage was sacred. And here I was, realizing I'd been played for a fool. I tried to keep my cool, but I couldn't help feeling this fierce anger boiling inside me. I kept picturing her, her bitchy sneer, the way she lied so effortlessly, like she had no conscience. I felt so betrayed, like I'd been slapped in the face over and over again. I started to think about revenge, about showing her she couldn't get away with this. Not just for me, but for Emma too. I didn't want my daughter growing up thinking cheating and sneaking around are acceptable. I wondered if I should just leave her, take Emma and start over somewhere else, or if I could somehow salvage what was left of us. Honestly, I was lost, and that's when I realized I had to confront her again, this time with everything I'd uncovered. The next morning, I sat her down in the living room. I told her I knew about the hotel, the texts, everything. That I'd seen her lying, deleting messages, sneaking around. Her face turned even bitchier, like she was trying to pretend she didn't care. She looked at me with that dismissive glare and said I should mind my own business, that she didn't owe me an explanation. I could see she was trying to deflect, to put me on the defensive. But I was done playing nice. I told her I wasn't going to be a cuckold, that I wasn't going to keep pretending I didn't know what she was doing, that if she wanted to cheat, she better be prepared for what comes next. Her reaction was classic Lisa. She started to scream, calling me crazy, saying I was stalking her, that I was making everything up in my head. She accused me of being insecure, jealous, and needy. She told me I was ruining her life with my paranoia. For a moment, I felt like I was losing my mind, like I'd entered some alternate universe where everything was upside down. How could she be so cold, so dismissive of the damage she'd caused? I'd never met someone so manipulative. She kept insisting she loved me, that I was overreacting, that she'd never cheat on me. And I knew she was lying, but hearing her say it was like a punch in the gut. That day, I realized my marriage was hanging by a thread, and I was the only one holding on to it. I didn't want to be a fool anymore. I knew I had to make a choice. Deep down, I knew this wasn't something I could just brush under the rug or forgive. The trust was shattered, and I wondered if I'd ever be able to look at her the same way again. It was one of those moments where everything changes in an instant. You think you're living a normal life, and then suddenly your world is flipped upside down. And all I could feel was this mix of anger, disappointment, and sadness, knowing everything had changed forever. After that day, things just kept spiraling downward. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep, and honestly, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. Every time I looked at Lisa, I saw the sneer, that bitchy edge she carried when she thought she was getting away with something. She kept up her act like nothing had changed, but I knew better. I saw the way she avoided eye contact, the tiny nervous gestures when she thought I wasn't paying attention. And that anger inside me kept growing, feeding itself on every little lie, every fake smile, every excuse she threw at me. I started to think about how it all began, how I missed the signs, how I ignored my gut. I was a fool for trusting her so blindly. I kept replaying that night I found the hotel receipts, the messages, the hotel security footage. It was like watching some bad movie, except I was the star of it and the betrayal was real. I felt sick to my stomach thinking about Emma, my sweet little girl, being unaware that her own mother was out there sneaking around like some cheat. It made me want to scream. One night, I decided to do a little more digging. I knew she was hiding her phone, so I set up a few apps to monitor her activities remotely. I didn't want to be a stalker, but I needed to know what she was still hiding. Turns out she kept up the flirtation with her coach even after I confronted her. She sent more explicit texts, bragging about how hot she looked, how excited she was to see him again. It was shocking how cold and calculating she'd become, like she was just going through the motions of being a wife and mother when her real life was somewhere else entirely. I felt this burning rage every time I saw her glued to her phone, every time I heard her lie and spin stories about how she needed space or wanted to focus on Emma, all the while sneaking away to meet her lover. I started to think about the revenge, about how to make her regret everything she'd done. Not some petty revenge, but something that would hit her where it hurts, make her understand she couldn't keep playing me like I was some fool. I kept coming back to a simple truth. I deserved better, Emma deserved better, and I wasn't going to be a cuckold. So I started planning. I didn't want to ruin her completely, but I wanted her to feel the loss, the betrayal. I figured if I could catch her again, maybe with proof that she was still cheating, I could show her that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I was ready to expose her to everyone, her family, her friends, even Emma if I had to. I wanted her to know that I wasn't going to be pushed aside, that her actions had consequences. That's when I decided I was going to get back at her, not with cheap shots or petty revenge, but with something calculated, something she wouldn't see coming. Meanwhile, she kept acting like nothing was wrong, throwing around her bitchy comments, accusing me of being controlling or insecure. She'd say I was just jealous because I couldn't keep up with her or her new adventures. Honestly, I think she enjoyed the power she had over me, the fact that she could lie and cheat and still act like the victim. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me forever. I knew I had to stay one step ahead. So I kept collecting evidence, kept watching her, and kept planning my move. I couldn't let her think she was winning, not after all the lies, not after all the nights she spent sneaking around with her coach during our family weekends. The thing that really hit me hard was realizing how much I'd trusted her, how much I'd believed in the perfect marriage we had. And now, I was staring straight into the reality that she'd been cheating on me behind my back and I'd been blind. It hurt more than I can put into words. I felt stupid and betrayed like a complete idiot. But I also felt angry, determined to fight back, to make her see that she couldn't get away with it forever. I knew I had to be smart, subtle even. I couldn't just storm in and accuse her again. She'd deny it, deny everything, and make me look crazy. Instead, I was going to gather everything I needed, then decide my next move. The hardest part was knowing I might lose everything: my wife, my family, my peace of mind. But I also knew that staying silent, pretending everything was fine, would only make me a bigger fool. I couldn't live like that. I had to stand up, face the truth, and decide what kind of man I wanted to be. One who let betrayal slide, or one who fought for what's right, for myself and Emma. And honestly, that choice is what keeps me going now, even as I sit here trying to figure out what's next. The days that followed were brutal. I kept everything bottled up: anger, confusion, the sense of betrayal. Every time I saw Lisa's face, I'd think about the lies, the sneaking around, the hotel footage. And Emma, God, my heart ached thinking about her innocence, about what her mother was doing behind her back. I couldn't let this go on. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. I didn't want to just blow everything up without a plan. That would only make things worse, maybe irreparably so. But I also couldn't keep pretending to be blind to what she was doing. One afternoon, I finally snapped. I couldn't take the silence, the pretending, the hiding. I sat her down again, this time more deliberately. I laid out all the evidence I'd gathered, the texts, the hotel receipts, the deleted messages I'd recovered. I looked her right in the eye and told her I knew she was still cheating. That I had enough and I wasn't going to stand for it anymore. That I was done pretending she was innocent. Her reaction was classic Lisa. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and started screaming at me about how I was overreacting, that I was crazy for even suggesting she'd do something so terrible. She called me insecure, jealous, a control freak. She told me I was a terrible husband for accusing her without proof, even though I had everything laid out in front of her. But her words were empty. She was deflecting, trying to make me doubt myself again. I saw right through her game. I was done with her manipulations. I told her I was leaving, not just for the night, but for good. I needed space, time to think, and I told her I wasn't coming back until she could be honest with me, until she could admit the truth. She started crying, of course. Fake tears, I knew. She's a master at that too. She begged me to stay, told me I was overreacting, said she loved me and Emma and that she'd change. I didn't buy it. I told her that her actions spoke louder than words, that I couldn't trust her anymore, that she had broken something in me I wasn't sure I could fix. I told her I'd take Emma, and if she wanted to keep this farce going, she could do it alone. That was the beginning of the end. I packed a bag that night and moved out. Not just out of the house, out of the marriage, out of the illusion I'd believed in for so long. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but also the most necessary. I needed to get away, clear my head, and decide what I was going to do next. I wasn't just angry, I was devastated. I kept thinking about Emma and how she'd never understand what her mother had been doing behind her back. How do you even explain that to a kid? I knew I had to protect her from all of this, but I couldn't do that while living under the same roof as Lisa. The first few nights apart were the worst. I kept waking up in a cold sweat, imagining Lisa with her coach, imagining what Emma would think if she knew the truth. I wondered if I should confront her again, threaten her with everything I had, or just keep quiet and wait. I felt like I was on the edge of some breaking point, and I didn't know if I was going to fall or stand tall, but I knew one thing: I couldn't stay silent forever. I had to decide whether I was going to fight for my marriage or fight to get out of it completely. Meanwhile, Lisa was trying to keep up her act, calling me all sorts of names, accusing me of ruining her life, and crying about how I was abandoning her and Emma. But I saw through that. I knew she was trying to guilt me into staying, trying to turn me into the bad guy. Honestly, I didn't care anymore. I felt numb, exhausted, but also strangely relieved that I'd finally taken a stand. At least now, I knew where I stood. I wasn't going to be the fool who ignored the signs, who kept pretending everything was fine when it was. The next step was figuring out what to do about Emma. I loved that girl more than anything, and I didn't want her growing up thinking cheating and lying were normal parts of a marriage. I was thinking about telling her the truth someday, but not yet. For now, I just wanted to keep her safe and away from all this chaos. I also knew I had to face Lisa's lies head-on, but I wasn't in a hurry. I needed to gather my thoughts, make sure I had all my evidence straight, and prepare for what would come next. Deep down, I felt this mix of grief and a strange sense of clarity. I'd lost the woman I thought I knew, but I was also starting to see who she really was. Maybe this was the wake-up call I'd needed. Maybe I'd finally get out of this toxic cycle and build something better, something honest. Or maybe I'd be better off walking away entirely. Either way, I knew my life had changed forever, and I had to decide how to move forward for me and for Emma. It's been a few weeks now since I moved out, and honestly, every day feels like walking through a storm. I've been staying with a friend, trying to keep everything together for Emma's sake. She's still too young to fully grasp what's happened, but I see the confusion in her eyes when she asks about Mommy. It's tearing me apart, knowing I have to shield her from the worst of this, even while my own world is falling apart. Lisa has been trying to play the victim, of course. She calls me constantly, crying and begging me to come back, saying she's sorry, that she loves us, that she made a mistake. But I don't buy any of it. Not anymore. Every time she says she's sorry, I remember those texts, those hotel footage clips, the way she lied to my face. Sorry doesn't fix what she did. Sorry doesn't erase the nights she spent with her coach or the lies she told Emma about her business trips. Sorry doesn't undo the damage she's caused. I've also been digging into her phone more, trying to find out just how deep this goes. I've found more messages, more photos, some that are downright disturbing. She's been lying to me about where she's been, what she's been doing. And the crazy part, she still insists she did nothing wrong, that I'm just overreacting, that I'm insecure. That's her go-to, call me insecure, accuse me of being controlling. But I know better now. I see through her bullshit. It's hard to accept, but I'm starting to realize she's been lying for a long time, maybe even before the hotel night started. In a way, I've been preparing myself for what's coming next. I don't want to just walk away without some kind of plan, some way to make her understand she can't keep doing this. I've started gathering everything, the messages, the receipts, the hotel footage. I want to have concrete proof if I decide to confront her again, or if I need to take legal action. I also want her to see that I'm serious. I'm not just some fool she can manipulate anymore. The hardest part is the emotional toll. Every day I wake up feeling like I've been punched in the stomach. I keep replaying everything, her sneering at me when I confronted her, the way she lied so effortlessly, the betrayal I never saw coming. It's like I've been punched so many times, I don't know if I'll ever recover. But I also feel this flicker of resolve. I owe it to myself and Emma to get out of this mess, to protect her from this toxic woman who's been pretending to be someone she's not. Meanwhile, Lisa's trying to keep the facade going. She's still trying to manipulate everyone, friends, family, even Emma. She spins stories about how bad I am, how I'm abandoning her out of jealousy or insecurity. It's laughable, honestly. I see right through her act now. I know she's lying, I know she's trying to turn everyone against me, but I don't care. I've come to accept that she's who she is, a manipulative, bitchy woman who's willing to cheat and lie her way through life. For Emma, I've decided to keep everything about her safe, at least for now. I don't want her to get involved in the mess, but I know someday I'll have to explain things. I'll tell her that mommy made mistakes, but that daddy loves her and will always be there for her. I don't want her growing up thinking this kind of betrayal is normal, so I'll do my best to shield her from the worst. It's painful to think about her innocence being shattered, but I have to be strong for her and for myself. Right now, I'm just trying to hold it together. Every day is a new test, and I feel like I'm barely hanging on. But I know I have to keep going. I have to decide whether to fight for the marriage or cut my losses. Honestly, part of me still clings to the hope that maybe, just maybe, she'll change. But another part knows that her words are empty, her apologies hollow. She's been lying for so long, I wonder if she even knows the meaning of honesty anymore. So I sit here, waiting and watching, gathering everything I can. I'm not rushing into anything, at least not yet. But I know I won't stay quiet forever. I need to think about what's best for Emma, for myself, and for my own sanity. Whatever happens, one thing's clear. I can't live in this chaos much longer. I've got to find a way out, and I will. I just hope I can do it without destroying everything in the process. Finally, after all the chaos, I've made my decision. I can't keep pretending that everything's fine, that Lisa's going to change, or that somehow this will all blow over. I've realized that I deserve better, deserve honesty, loyalty, respect. Emma deserves a home where she's not constantly caught in the crossfire of her mother's lies. So I sat down with her one evening, told her the truth in a way she could understand. I explained that mommy had made some choices she wasn't proud of, that she'd been unfaithful, and that daddy was doing what he believed was best to keep us safe. I promised her we'd get through this together, and that she was the most important thing in my life. That was a hard conversation, but I knew it was necessary. I wanted her to understand that no matter what, she's loved by both of us, even if mommy wasn't showing it right now. I also decided I'd take the legal steps needed to protect myself and her. The evidence I'd collected was enough to show that Lisa was unfaithful, and I was prepared to confront her with it officially if she didn't stop her manipulations. I knew this wouldn't be easy. I'd probably face more lies, more accusations, and maybe even more crying and guilt-tripping from her. But I couldn't let her manipulate me or Emma anymore. The day I finally told her I was filing for divorce was the hardest of my life. She went ballistic, screaming, crying, slamming doors, calling me every name in the book. She accused me of destroying her life, of being jealous and insecure, of ruining everything because I didn't trust her. But deep down, I knew I was finally free, free from her constant lies, her manipulations, her betrayal. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness, relief that I was no longer under her spell, and sadness for what we'd lost, what Emma was losing, and the unfairness of it all. Since then, things have started to settle. I've been working with a lawyer, setting up the custody arrangements for Emma. I want her to have stability to keep her safe from the chaos. I've also started therapy to deal with the emotional aftermath of this, because honestly, it's been a hell of a ride. I've learned a lot about trust, about recognizing red flags, about the importance of listening to my gut. I've realized that sometimes love isn't enough. Loyalty and honesty are what truly matter, and if they're gone, everything else falls apart. Looking back, I have to admit I'm angry at Lisa, at myself for not seeing the signs sooner, at the whole situation for turning my life upside down. But I also know I'm stronger now. I've faced the truth, no matter how painful, and I've decided to rebuild my life. Emma and I are starting fresh somewhere new where she can grow up without the shadow of her mother's betrayal hanging over her. And as for Lisa, she's left to deal with the consequences of her actions. I hope she learns from this, but honestly, I don't care anymore. I've done what I needed to do to protect my daughter and myself. This experience has changed me. It's made me realize that sometimes people you trust the most can hurt you the deepest. That betrayal cuts so much deeper than I ever imagined. But it's also taught me that you can survive it by standing up, facing the truth, and choosing a better path. I guess the biggest lesson is to never ignore your instincts, no matter how much you want to believe in someone. Because sometimes the truth is right there in front of you if only you're brave enough to see it. Now, I'm just focusing on healing, on rebuilding my confidence, and on making sure Emma grows up knowing what real love and honesty look like. It's not easy, and I know there will be more hurdles ahead, but I'm done living in the shadows of lies. I'm done being the fool. I've taken back control of my life, and I'm finally ready to move forward, wiser, stronger, and more cautious than ever before.